He was a hardworking man, heading home after a long shift, dreaming only of dinner with his family. But in a matter of seconds, flashing blue lights cut across the night, and everything changed. Without warning, he was thrown against a police car, handcuffed and accused of a crime he didn't commit. Neighbors watched in silence, his daughter's cries echoing through the street. How could a man's entire life be destroyed in minutes, all because of mistaken identity? Or was it something much darker? Stay with me, because the truth behind this arrest will leave you shocked and angry. Like and subscribe to join our community. Michael Carter was the kind of man everyone in his neighborhood knew by name. A father of two, a church volunteer, and a reliable worker at the local warehouse, his life was simple, but honorable. He believed in hard work, fairness, and setting the right example for his kids. At 42 years old, he had never been in trouble with the law, never even received so much as a speeding ticket. To his family, Michael was the rock, the steady hand that made sure the bills were paid. The children felt safe, and Sunday dinners were always a time for laughter. For years, he carried the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, never once complaining, always putting others first. But behind his calm smile, Michael sometimes worried about something he never spoke aloud, that no matter how good a man he was, no matter how hard he tried, his skin color might one day define him more than his character. He hoped his fears were only in his head. He hoped his children would grow up in a better world, one where merit mattered more than prejudice. But that quiet hope would soon shatter. In a single night, Michael's ordinary life would be ripped apart, not because of what he did, but because of who people thought he was. The very values he believed in, justice, trust, and equality, would be tested in the harshest way imaginable. And what unfolded next would leave not only Michael, but his entire community changed forever. It began on an ordinary Tuesday evening. Michael had just finished a 12-hour shift at the warehouse. His back ached, his feet were sore, and all he wanted was to get home, kiss his kids goodnight, and sit down for a quiet meal with his wife. The streets were calm, the sky painted with the last glow of sunset. But peace would not last. A sudden flash of blue lights filled his rearview mirror. Confused, Michael slowed down, pulled over, and waited. He thought maybe a taillight was out, or perhaps the officer just needed to pass. Instead, 2 squad cars boxed him in. Within moments, uniformed officers were at his door, hands already on their weapons. Michael's heart raced. He had done nothing wrong, but in their eyes, he wasn't a father heading home. He was a suspect. Without explanation, they ordered him out of the car. The cuffs were cold, biting into his wrists. The questions didn't come. Instead, the accusations did. Words like robbery, suspect, and fitting the description echoed in his ears. Neighbors peeked through blinds as he stood helpless, restrained on the side of the road. His children's bedtime story was replaced with the image of their father shoved into the back of a police car. The so-called evidence? A vague eyewitness description, a tall black man in dark clothing. That was all it took. His entire life, 42 years of honesty, hard work, and integrity, reduced to a stereotype. Inside the interrogation room, the injustice deepened. Officers grilled him for hours, ignoring his pleas, dismissing his alibi, and twisting his words. Every answer he gave was met with suspicion. Every silence was treated as guilt. He was no longer Michael Carter, respected father and worker. He was just another case number in a system that saw color before character. As the hours dragged on, Michael's fear grew. What if no one believed him? What if this single night defined the rest of his life? Could his children grow up without a father, all because of a mistaken identity? The longer he sat in that cold, gray room, the more hopelessness crept in. Yet something inside him refused to break. He knew the truth. He knew he was innocent. But the terrifying question remained. Would the truth ever matter? The tension in that room was suffocating, and the silence that followed each accusation was deafening. Michael realized he wasn't just fighting to prove his innocence. He was fighting against a system built to doubt men like him. And just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, a new piece of evidence surfaced. A grainy surveillance photo, one that the police claimed matched Michael perfectly. His stomach dropped as they pushed it across the table. He barely recognized the figure. But the officers were convinced. The nightmare was only beginning. What happened next would test not only Michael's will, but the very idea of justice itself. The interrogation had dragged on for hours. Michael's wrists were raw from the cuffs, his throat dry from repeating the same words over and over. "I didn't do it." But no one was listening. The officers leaned in, their voices sharp, their faces cold, as if they were determined to make him fit the crime rather than find the truth. Then came the moment that nearly broke him. A detective stormed in with a folder, slamming it on the table. Inside was the surveillance photo, the same grainy, distorted image they had shoved at him before. But this time the words hit harder. "This is you." "We know it. Stop lying." Michael stared at the picture. The man in it was tall, yes. The clothes were dark, yes. But it wasn't him. Still, he could see in their eyes they had already decided. His innocence didn't matter. His words didn't matter. His entire identity had been stripped away until he was nothing more than a suspect, trapped by prejudice. The fear was crushing. He thought of his children, now asleep, not knowing their father might never come home. He thought of his wife pacing the floor, waiting for a call that would never come. And then the unthinkable. The detective leaned across the table and said, "If you don't confess, you'll go away for a long time. Maybe forever." Michael felt his world collapsing. He hadn't just lost control, he had lost his voice, his dignity, his freedom. In that moment, he understood something terrifying. Sometimes the truth alone isn't enough. The walls seemed to close in as the reality hit him. This wasn't just about one arrest. It was about a lifetime of being seen as guilty before proven innocent. And as Michael sat in that cold, suffocating room, one haunting question echoed in his mind. Would the truth ever set him free, or would it bury him instead? Just when it seemed Michael's life was about to be stolen from him, a shift finally came. Hours into the nightmare, a public defender demanded the officers release the full surveillance footage, not just the blurry still photo they clung to. What the video revealed was undeniable. The suspect's build, movements, even the time of the crime. None of it matched Michael. He wasn't anywhere near the scene. The case against him collapsed in an instant. But the damage? That lingered. Michael walked out of that station a free man, yet he didn't feel free. The handcuff marks on his wrists burned deeper than the skin. They carved into his soul. His children had seen him taken away like a criminal. His wife had spent hours terrified he might never come home. And Michael himself had felt what so many before him had felt, the crushing weight of being judged not by truth but by prejudice. Neighbors whispered apologies. The officers who arrested him gave no explanation, no acknowledgement, no justice. To them it was just another mistake. To Michael it was a scar he would carry forever. But here's the truth. Michael's story is not unique. For every Michael, there are countless others. Men and women who face suspicion, false accusations, or worse, simply because of the color of their skin. And while Michael walked free, not everyone does. Some never make it home. So the question remains, how many more lives must be torn apart before change truly comes? How many more innocent people must suffer before justice is measured not by appearances, but by facts? Michael's story should make us angry. It should make us think. And most of all, it should make us act. Because silence only allows the cycle to continue. What will you do when faced with injustice? Will you look away, or will you speak out? If this story touched you, don't just watch. Be part of the change. Hit subscribe and join our community of voices that matter.